my name's Fran and you're watching a retouching tutorial for tipsquirrel.com. In today's video I'm going to be turning this into this. So in today's episode I'm going to be teaching you how we can enhance our night cityscapes, and in particular focusing on the lights within the cityscape, within the image. So these photos here all have one thing in common: they're very bright. Even though they're sort of dark nighttime shots, they are still quite bright, and the aim of the video, the aim of this tutorial, is to tone that down, make it really gritty and grungy, and give the image more of a darker appeal, yet still keeping the brightness and the colours of the lights. So let's get started with the tutorial. Okay, so first things first, we're going to be using Camera Raw throughout this tutorial. So I'm going to duplicate my background layer. I'm going to go to Filter, Camera Raw Filter, and I'm going to have a real good play around with all the different sliders that we have in Camera Raw. So I'm going to bring the exposure down because I feel like this image needs to be darker. And I'm going to improve the contrast here. I'm going to bring down the highlights. I need to open up the image a lot more, so I'm going to bring out the shadows. Let me adjust the whites there and bring out the blacks as well. I just want to open up the image. I love clarity, so I'm going to boost that up there. And here's the important part of the tutorial. We're bringing the vibrance down quite a bit. And as you can see from the image, it's taken a lot of the colours out, which is great, but it's kept in some of the main colours like the warmer tones. So to improve those colours, we're going to go onto the hue and saturation sliders. I'm going to boost up the warm colours like reds, oranges, and importantly the yellows, because that's the main colour within the shot. And I'm going to reduce the other colours that aren't really prominent and I don't really need: the greens, the aquas, purples, magentas. But I'm going to keep the blue because I don't want to have a desaturated sky. I still want to keep the blue of the sky, so I'm going to keep that in there, but the rest can be reduced. And on the luminance filter, I'm going to improve the warm colours again, and that's going to really help brighten those tones in those colours. And then I'm going to reduce the colours that I don't need, but I will keep the blues and perhaps the aqua colour, but everything else I'm going to tone down. Just going to make a few tweaks here, bring out the shadows a bit more. I'm going to brighten up the image just a touch. And it's looking quite hot in some of the brighter areas, so I'm going to bring down the highlights. But that is pretty much done, so I'm going to click OK. So as you can see, I've taken away a lot of the brightness, a lot of the colours in the shot. The original shot was very bright, and it didn't really appear to be a nighttime sky, even though obviously the lights are on. The skyline was quite bright, so it was just reducing those, reducing the vibrancy to get this really awesome kind of gritty kind of city scene, but still keeping the brightness and the vibrancy and the colours of the lights within the cityscape. So yeah, that's really awesome. I'm really happy with that. So let's move on to the next picture. Okay, so here's my next image. I'm going to do exactly the same process as the first image. So duplicate my background layer, go to Filter, and then Camera Raw Filter. And I'm going to be using the same sliders that I used in the last shot. So I'm going to reduce the exposure just to darken the image a little bit, improve the contrast, reduce the highlights because it's looking a bit hot on the brightness there. I'm going to open out the shadows, improve the whites just a bit, and then open up the blacks as well. And of course we're going to throw in a lot of clarity, and I'm going to reduce the vibrancy, which again is the main tool really for this tutorial. So I'm going to go to the hue and saturation sliders again. So I'm going to improve the warmer tones and then push back and reduce the cooler tones of the image. I'm going to keep in the blues though, because obviously I want to have a blue sky. I don't want a desaturated sky. Now if I go on luminance, I can just adjust those sliders that I wish to as well. So improving the warm tones and reducing or darkening down the cooler tones. Now from what I can see, the water is actually a bit desaturated, so I'm going to improve the aqua colour and the blue colour there just to add in those colours back into the water and the sky. It's looking quite hot on the highlights there, so I'm just going to reduce those. So I'm pretty happy with that, so let's have a look and see the final result. Now that's looking pretty nice. It almost looks like a kind of Gotham City, sort of Batman City. It looks really, really cool. I'm very happy with that. So I've reduced a lot of the tones and vibrancy that we don't really need in the image, darken it down a little bit, but still keeping in the lights within the picture. So let's move on to the final image. So here we have the final image, and it's just a Times Square image, lots of people in the shot and a lot of light. So it's not a skyline, but it is still a great image that's dark and has a lot of lighting in it. So again, I'm going to duplicate my background layer, go to filter and camera raw filter, and I'm going to use the same sliders that I've been using this entire tutorial. So I'm going to reduce the exposure to darken the image, bring the contrast up, reduce the highlights, improve the shadows, add a little bit of white there, improve the blacks by opening those out, add some clarity, and of course reduce the vibrancy of the image. So then we go to the hue and saturation sliders. We improve the warm tones and reduce the cooler tones of the image. I'm probably going to include the blues though, just to keep those in there. And then we go onto the luminance filter and just improve the colours that we wish to improve. So darken the tones that I don't need and brighten the tones that I do need. I'm thinking it's probably a little too heavy on the clarity, so I'm going to reduce that a little bit and reduce the contrast as well. But I'm pretty happy with that, so I'm going to click OK and we'll see the final result. So as you can see, the before and after here, I'm fairly happy with that. I think I could have added more colour and tone to the road, but overall I'm quite happy with the lighting and how dark the image is. But yeah, as I've said before, the key here is to reduce the vibrancy and really bump up the saturation of the warmer tones within the lights. I think it works really, really well with these nightscapes and these skylines, and of course reducing the exposure as well to create a darker image. Makes it a little bit more gritty and grungy, and it almost looks like something you'd find in Gotham City, or you know, some kind of Batman science fiction comic book world. You know, I think it works well and I'm really happy with the results. So thank you very much for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like, and of course if you want to see more from me, you can subscribe to the channel. It's absolutely free and you'll be notified about my latest content. Don't forget to check out tipsquirrel.com for the latest Photoshop and Lightroom tutorials. You can follow me on Twitter at Photoshop Pro and on Instagram at Photoshop Fran. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back next week for a very special Halloween themed video, so be sure to check that out. Thanks guys, and I'll see you next time.